All right. Well, Eric Page, we have who is our franchisee from Indianapolis. Eric, thanks for your time and speaking to us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Look forward to it.
So, Eric, tell us a little bit about your background before you came into Fowling Warehouse. What was your career experience?
Sure. So, my first out of college, I interned with the Walt Disney World Company down in Orlando in their hospitality division, and was basically doing things. It was all customer service generated roles that I had with the Walt Disney World Company, and mainly in the hotel division. So anything from front office operations to hotel operations to room ops, things of that nature. The great thing about Walt Disney World as a whole is that there's uh, one purpose, but hundreds of roles. So it was a great opportunity for me to try new things. So anything from food and beverage to hotel operations to housekeeping to whatever it was. Event planning. I was in convention services for a while. Was able to stay in one place and try different roles. So I got great advice from an executive there that said, you should try new things every year or two in your time with Walt Disney World, and I took that to heart. So a lot of all customer service related, all operations related. Then I got recruited to go to the Wyndham Vacation Ownership company, where we opened their flagship resort that was within the confines of Walt Disney World, but it wasn't a Walt Disney World hotel, which was one of the first of its kind, and was all customer service related there. I was the assistant general manager for the whole entire resort. We started with 123 units and ended when I got promoted to a new property location. We were at 1,200 units, so it was a lot of construction. All of the issues of doing all this while you're open and stuff like that, which was very helpful for me, and I really learned a lot in that company as far as um, uh, uh, you know budgeting and finance and all that thing, all those related items. Because with the Walt Disney World Company, it was all handled. There were other divisions that handled all that, and there was kind of endless purse strings. But when I went to Wyndham, it was very budget focused and experience focused and things like that. So, goal was always to get back to the Midwest. I'm a Midwest guy, and so I kind of reinvented myself and got into healthcare, and got a role as for it. Always wanted to kind of be my own boss, if you will, and own my own company, and just kind of on a whim, this location in Indianapolis came about, and the founder Chris Hutt called me and said, "Hey, would you consider moving to Indianapolis and opening a warehouse?" And um, the rest is kind of history. So that's how it all happened.
And so, from your history, you opened and were in construction during COVID. Tell me what were your unique challenges of COVID, but also what are the typical challenges that a Foley franchisee encounters in regards to finding the right real estate and construction, and how has Foley, the franchise side, helped you in that
Yeah,
respect?
sure. So it's a compelling story of where we were, where Foaling was back when it started, to where it is now, and um, I obviously had very unique challenges because of COVID. There was we moved to Indianapolis in October of 19, and we had to do a lot of demolition to the space. We did that for about 3 months. Um, I was very fortunate to have a very good landlord who was very proactive in getting this done. So he took on a lot of that, and then as we in December, if you will, December January, going into 2020, all these rumors about this nasty virus were coming out, and it was like the world, obviously, everybody knows, kind of shut down. So it was unique for me in the sense that I was able to, you know, pull back a lot of the things mainly because I didn't have, there were companies just weren't working. They weren't doing the things that, everything was on hold, right? So my situation is very, very um, similar to the way the Fowling started, where it was a lot of do a lot of stuff by yourself, and and I think with my situation, it really advanced where we are now, in the sense that there's a national firm that's going to help you with contractors and the brand standards, and um, procuring all of the equipment that you need. I just had to, beg, borrow, and steal anything I could, and do it myself, if you will. Obviously, there were electrical and plumbing and stuff like that, and the stuff like that I couldn't do, and I was able to find contractors for that. But where I think Fowling is now compared to when I did it, my challenges were just trying to find the needed materials, to do the build out. I mean, finding, you know cooler doors was a 6 month process, and now they can be there in a week, type of thing. It's very, very different. But that's where I think Fowling is so exciting right now, because it's when you start your process, you want to get open as quickly as possible, so that you can kind of turn that ship around from all the money going out to being open for operations, and turn that ship around, and start recouping all of that expense for the build out. So my process was, kind of all told, about 8 months, and we're down to almost 4 or 5 months now, which is from start to finish. From when, okay, the building's yours, this is your site, you're ready to do it, to do the build out. And that's where I think Fowling has really advanced, if you will, from when I did it, and for sure when the first couple warehouses in Detroit and Grand Rapids opened. I mean, that was a 15-month process when they did the first one. So, for me, just the challenges really were just trying to get a feel for what was needed, and now it's all very well laid out for you. Say, okay, this is what you need to do. These are the dates that you need to do it by, so that you can get open. You set a target date, and then you kind of backfill. Okay, we need to start this now. We got to be on track with this. And there's a project manager. I was a GC, if you will, which is not my forte to say, because I didn't really know what I was doing. But those were some of my challenges, I guess, to answer your question, was just the unknown, and really not knowing when we could open. I mean, and we got our certification on a Thursday, and we opened the next day, and that was kind of our thing.
And real estate is such an important component to the success of a Fowling warehouse. So, what advice do you have for franchise candidates or new franchisees on their search for real estate? What have you found?
I would say spend some serious time on your demographic of where you're going to be, and I think for a while it was a much bigger demographic. But really, what you want to look at is kind of a 5 mile radius of what do people where I want to put this, what do they want to do, and really do the research on figuring out, is this an active community, is this a stay at home community for socializing and things like that. I would say definitely don't focus on um, uh, you know necessarily, like, there's a big college here, so let's put it in this college town. Like, I wouldn't suggest that. We've always been kind of a destination type of location, but if you can find that happy medium of foot traffic, it's going to help you immensely. You know, there's a lot of value in being visible to somebody, and knowing that's there, and hey, I've heard about this thing, and let's go try it this Friday or Saturday or Tuesday or whatever it is. So I think real estate for me, the location, obviously, and knowing your demographic are super important. But I also think your negotiation with the lease, because these are big spaces. We're not we don't necessarily fit into a strip mall, just one place. Now, could we fit into a strip mall with a lot of location, with a lot of doors? Maybe, but it's these are big spaces, and that's where I think a lot of that research and digging into that is super super important. So,
And you bring up being around your customers. What has surprised you most about your client base, as who are repeaters, leaguers,
mhm.
corporate? What has been the most surprising thing?
They're all different. I thought for sure we'd be in this nice little niche of the 22, 23, 24 to 35, but some of our greatest events have been with a different demographic, with some older folks. I was, when you reached out for this, I was looking back at some of our bookings, and I see a lot of you know 40th birthday parties, 50th birthday parties, and they have great times, and um, I just think it's hard to really pinpoint exactly what the perfect demographic is for this thing that we have. I know we try and quantify it between the early 20s to late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, if you will. But it's all in the service that you give, and your the experience that you provide for people, that you can drive this demographic. Um, you know, I think our leaguers are anywhere from I think the 30 to 40-year range is a solid guesstimate, if you will. I look at our leaguers, and I know how old they are, so I guess I can confidently say that it's the late 20s to late 30s is really kind of where our sweet spot is. They want to be active. They don't want to just. They've kind of gone through the idea of just going out to a bar and sitting there and whatever. They want to kind of do something, and that's kind of where our demographic really fits. I think fits well, if you will.
It really struck me as I first started learning about this business, the ability to retain the customer and the frequency at which they visit. But the
Yeah.
important thing is, how do you acquire that customer in the first place? So what is your philosophy behind customer acquisition?
My philosophy around customer acquisition would definitely be, it starts with from the minute they walk in the door. Well, I shouldn't. Let me back up. Um, it's getting your name out there. I think the biggest thing for me, and I know this is kind of what down the road, but the community engagement, I think, is super super important, because you try and explain this game to somebody, and they're kind of like, huh, I'm doing what? Um, and but the flip side to that, or the caveat, if you will, is once they get here, they always have a great time, and that's where I know, okay, we know we're doing something right, because I talk to all, not all, but the majority of the people that come in. I make sure that I'm on the floor, and watching them and interacting with them, and it's this very simple game, in the sense that you're just trying to knock something down, and you're allowed to throw a football indoors and make noise and have fun with it. And it's just, I think the most important thing is getting your name out there, saying we're here. We can hold a big group, we can hold a small group, and it's going to be a very similar experience between the two. And if it's, I think that kind of feeds into the demographic of the type of people that come in here. They're looking for something to do while they go out and socialize with their friends and family and stuff like that, coworkers. So
It's always struck me that the private events, the corporate events, are really great customer acquisition tools. What do you do to proactively go after those events?
yeah, so we obviously do a bunch of marketing directed straight at corporate events, saying, hey, there's the kind of the cookie cutter corporate event. Do you want to try something new, to where you can have somebody from one department playing against somebody from another department that maybe they don't have any interaction, maybe they don't have any interaction together on a day-to-day basis. You're going to have it here. And I think one of our taglines is, Sally from accounting was the champion of Fowling, and you never knew it. You never knew it. And I think that's where we say, if you're looking to do a team building event, we're going to draw things out of your team that you normally wouldn't see. And we're just not as intimidating as some of the other team building type events where you have to be a star athlete or something like that. This game and this experience is, you just don't know. There's a lot of luck involved in it. There's some skill. Um, Mainly, there's a lot of luck and just things happen. And I've seen anything and every type of person have a great time doing it. And I think the key is just acquiring those groups, if you will, is a huge word of mouth and making sure that they have a great time when you're here, because that word spreads. And I think where I know this is that we get so much repeat corporate business that when they come have an event here and they go back to the office and they're talking about it, and then when it comes up that they need to do a new team building event or another team building event, maybe next quarter or for their holiday party, we are definitely top of mind for them to rebook with us. And I just think getting your name out there. And then in addition to that, the most important thing for me to gain that corporate business is that you're uh, always answering your phone and answering those inquiries. That's where I think, and having the right person, the right event planner, if you will, that can explain this game to somebody when they call, because they do call and they're like, I just heard about it. What is it? And it's having that person. So acquiring that business is I would tell any franchisee, because we didn't learn it until maybe a year into it, um, how important that vendor and that person that can explain the experience that their team have, um, how valuable that is. And it's you got to have it. You got to do it.
And so, what would you say when you're speaking to a franchise candidate is the biggest ongoing challenges you face on a week to week basis?
Um, that's a good one. I think the ongoing challenge is just um, maintaining that level of service from your staff to if you're going to get into this thing, this is your business, this is your home away from home, and you know how you want people to feel when they're there in your home. Bartenders, main hosts, and front desk staff, and all that stuff to deliver that level of expectation. I think that's probably my challenge is there's an industry there of bar service, and I think we've really kind of taken a step back, because we were kind of going through a lot of people that were like, you're just not living up to the level of expectation that we have. And we're in a really good spot right now but we weren't for a while, where um, no matter what's going on, they're delivering that level of service that people are paying. Money's money right now, and money it's expensive to live, and the discretionary funds are definitely smaller. So if they're gonna make that effort to, or that offer to give their discretionary income or money to you, give them that level of service. And that's where I think the biggest challenge for a while has been. But now we're really focusing on our hiring. I think that's definitely something I would give advice to any franchisee, is really, really, really focus on your hiring, because it's a direct extension of you and your business. And you just got to have the right people in the right position.
One of the other things that struck me about this business is that there's a sense of community inside the warehouse. So a community from the league perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but also community from people socializing. And we all know the numbers. The number of the church attendance is down. The number of people on their phone is way up.
Yep.
You're either on the far left or the far right. And there's
Yep.
this lack of community. So tell me, like, how Fowling has really filled that space.
Sure. So one of the unique aspects of Fowling is that we've got this thing called open play, where if you're by yourself or with your friend, you can come in and it's you pay an entrance fee, and you've got the ability to stay as long or as short as you want. And the way open play works is that you're going to be the winner stays and the loser gets back in line. And it was tough during COVID. I'll say that because people didn't really want to have any interaction with anybody. But once we kind of got out of the COVID thing, um, especially on our busy nights when the lanes are all reserved, but we've got specific numbers of lanes that are for open play, so you can come in and play, and you just you're not forced, but you've got the opportunity to meet new people. And I think one of the how do I say this? Well, one of the uh, uh, feathers in our cap, if you will, is that I think there's been 8 marriages that have happened because of Fowling. Um, and I still think it's a cool story. And it's like these people just they may have gone. I've had countless numbers of engagements here. I've had wedding parties here because they met here and they decided to have their reception here after their wedding. And I think it's kind of a testament to like your barriers are broken down. If you're involved in the game, your phone is not, you're not looking at your phone. So that's, you're not sitting at a bar top in a bar stool, pounding away at your phone, not really paying attention to what's out you. You're engaged in something. And that's where I think the true value of this business is that, to your point, um, everybody, my kids are stuck on their phones and it's like, gosh, you guys, if you just knew what else was out there by meeting people. And that's where I think we have this ability with this business to really kind of re-energize that as a society, which sounds a little bit, what's the word I'm thinking of? Just I don't know. It seems very pie in the sky type of thing, but I see it every day. I see where people, stick their phones in their pocket, and for the next half an hour, 45 minutes, they're actually having a conversation with somebody and enjoying their company. And that's where I think we have to promote that success. And I think that's, to go back to one of your further questions, is how do you retain that? How do you retain those people and get those corporate events? That's one of our selling points is like, hey, your teams are probably stuck directly in their computers or on their phones or in meetings or whatever. We break that barrier down a little bit and let them see who they really are and who their colleague is in a different light. And that's where I think it's important.
And what are you most excited about for the future of Fowling?
I am most excited about where Fowling can go as my location is 50,000 square feet. They're big spaces and they're kind of blank canvases. And what I'm seeing a, a, is we don't have to be just a Fowling warehouse. We can do a lot of different things. It's a blank canvas. And we've had things like trade shows in here. I did a cars and coffee in here because there was nasty weather and they had this big cars and coffee, and somebody reached out and said, I heard you can roll in cars there. We pulled up a bunch of boards and they brought their cars in, had a great time. I think that's what's most exciting is how do we think so outside of the box of what we have, because having spaces that are this big, you can do a lot of things and you can do different things. And I think that's what's most exciting about me. And I know it sounds a little strange saying like, well, you know, just Fowling. That's not it. If you actually take a step back and say, okay, I've got this big canvas here. What can I do? And I think it opens up a ton of doors for things you might not even be thinking about. We've got a couple of things on the books coming up that I probably never thought about. Uh, Trade shows. We had a lot of interest in bringing in outside companies to throw multiple day events because they couldn't find the location or it didn't work in a convention center. And guess what? It kind of worked here. And they were like, this could work out. I did a big firefighters convention where they brought in fire trucks. They rolled them in and they did their whole thing for a night. They bought the whole place out for the night. So I think that's what excites me the most is that you can look at this and say, okay, I've got these rinks, but these boards can move, and there's a 10,000 foot space. what can we do there? And that's what's exciting to me.
And that goes back to being part of the community. You're
Yeah.
essentially a new age community center servicing the community around you.
Well, and one of the big things, as you said that, like we are part of a running group for the Indianapolis 500. They do all of their start and finish lines at our front door because they don't have to go rent a big tent in a big parking lot and bring in all the porta potties and all that stuff. We're the start finish line, and they sign up for multiple events, but that's 2,000 people that come in and kind of go, I never knew about this place. What is this? And we've got our staff there saying, well, normally this is what you do. And it's such a great inroad to finding that new client and that new guest that's going to come to your location because um, they come in, they get all their stuff, and then they do their running the race, and then they come back in, and we stay open for a couple hours, and they all end up folding usually. But then you get the people that are like, oh, I was tasked with my company outing. Maybe we do it here. So we literally have somebody at the desk that's signing up reservations and group events during those races. And I think that's that community outreach, and it's great for the event coordinator because we're kind of a one-stop shop. We get it all set for them. They run their race. They come back, and we've got the bar open. We've got whatever they need, and it works out really well. So,
Awesome. Final question. What
yes,
advice would you give to a new franchisee or a franchise candidate who are in the beginning processes with Fowling?
sure. You know, I would go back to just really understanding your demographic, understanding what people want to do in and around that location. If it's and furthermore having a large population to choose from. I mean, there's I think it's very important that you're not going to put one of these in a town of 1,000 people. I think that would probably I would say that's probably not going to be sustainable. Um, I really think it's important that you pinpoint communities that are somewhat active, that have um, um, and that can be any size, any age, if you will. But I think it's really important to understand your demographic. I think it's important to understand um, the shape that the building is in before you get into it. I know it's hard to do sometimes, but in just watching these things grow, like and new locations open, um, I, I think it's very important to understand. Okay, what are we going to have to do to this place to turn it into a Fowling Warehouse, and really have a good feeling about it, so that you're not swamped on the start of it with the unknowns. And again, you're going to have that. You're going to have some of that, but I think where I've seen franchises struggle and other franchisees that have reached out and said, "What do I do here? I don't know how to handle this." Um, I think having a good foundation, if you will, of like, okay, what am I getting into? Is this going to be such a heavy lift to get this thing up to code and up to a nice location? And that's the other thing. The best advice I can give is people like nice things. Like they don't want to go out to a dive bar all the time, and you don't want to be a dive bar. If you want to be a dive bar, go be a dive bar. Be a nice, have a nice, clean, well thought out floor plan and experience. Put yourself not as a business owner, but as somebody coming in and saying, okay, how am I going to feel when I walk in here? Take yourself out of being the owner of the location. When I envision this thing and I walk to the front door, what am I going to feel? That's the most important thing. I think that's where we were successful in Indianapolis, is that you walk in our front door and you're up a little bit higher and you can see the whole layout, and the wow factor for everybody is kind of a hook. I mean, it really is. And you've been here. It's. I still hear it. People just kind of like, wow, this is crazy. I never realized like how big this is, and I hear it all the time. So
Yeah.
that's
Awesome.
that's
Well, Eric,
Thanks. See you, Sean. Take care.